Hi everyone, it's Barb. It's Tuesday, which means it is our Tuesday Training Tools Day. But this week it's technically Wednesday because of the short week. We're behind today. So happy Wednesday instead of happy Tuesday. I hope you're all having a fabulous week. And yeah, we're going to continue our discussions this week about child development. That is our monthly theme. And our weekly topic this week, our weekly focus, is going to be emotional development, which I know I say this every time, guys, but it's so important. You know, I could do hours about emotional development, but we're just going to kind of do a brief overview. And like the purpose of all these tools is that I hope it just, if you're, have more questions or excited about a topic, it just helps to have you have deeper reflection on your teaching practices and some really nice conversations with your teaching teams. So emotional development, so important. We're going to go over a few things about it. But again, if a child cannot regulate their emotions, if they can't understand their emotions down the road when they're in school, it's going to be a lot harder for them to learn and to engage with other children and to socialize. And all of this foundation is laid in the years that we're working with them, in these infant, toddler, preschool years. So I know we touched on that with cognitive development, but we're going to break it down a little more in terms of emotional development today. I always try to have some type of text for you to follow along to make it a little easier for everyone. So, emotional development, January 2021. Let's start with some common misconceptions about behaviors, young children and their big emotions, and just, kind of focus on that. So, some common misconceptions are children who display big emotions are naughty. Oh, no, you're not supposed to act out, right? Like you're not supposed to do that. So maybe not so much the case. Or, the child is challenging authority through their emotions, trying to get something they want. Or the child is acting out or crying for no reason at all. They just want attention. Like there's no other reason to that behavior or that emotion except they're being manipulative and they want attention from the adults. And they think that is a way to get it. And that we should be distracting and placing limits or even ignoring when they display undesirable emotions. So, you see a really bad emotion and you try to automatically distract that child from not doing it because you want that emotion to stop. Okay, so these are just a few common misconceptions. So big emotions equal bad, that they're trying to go against the adult, so on and so forth. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of others, just a few of them. So what do these common misconceptions from adults teach the children? Well, it teaches them that certain emotions are classified as bad. So negative or bad emotions should be suppressed. No, you cannot be angry. No, you cannot cry. No, you cannot be upset because we don't find that acceptable or we think that, it's for another reason. This also teaches them, and then that teaches them that, those emotions should be suppressed. It also teaches them that their emotions are not worthy. We're not taking the time to help you through your emotions, so they must not be important or worthy. That children think, this teaches the child that they must act a certain way in order for you to love or accept them. So if they're angry or sad at something, they feel maybe they're not going to get that acceptance. So then they're learning, I have to act this way so I can feel accepted. And what that does is that it teaches them they should look outside themselves to have their emotions validated. So if we're not aware of this, we're really teaching some deep lessons here about how we're handling our emotions and how we're recognizing them, even from this young age when they're so little, yet their emotions are so big. So that goes into, how do we support the emotional development? How do we help this? Well, first, if we're thinking about all those common misconceptions, and if you were, if I was going through them, you're like, oh yeah, I kind of do that. Like sometimes I do that. Like I know I did when I read that list, like as a parent or as a former teacher. Yes, sometimes we do that. It's impossible not to. We're not all perfect, right? But we really have to work on changing our perception. And we have to see the outburst of these emotions as learning. We cannot be looking at it as a way that, like we were saying before, like the child's bad or they're being manipulative or they're trying to get something. When a child is showing a strong emotion, they are trying to understand a complex emotion. And again, they're laying the foundation for this self regulation. So we have to let them know that all feelings are valid and we want to welcome those big emotions. We're not trying to distract them or say, make them stop. We have to welcome them because back to brain talk again, back to first week of January when our weekly focus was cognitive development, we remember the brain is still under construction. So that front part of the brain that we talked about week 1, it is not even developed. So it is impossible for us to expect children to regulate emotions or have, emotional awareness without our guidance during these years. It's impossible. We are the ones that guide this. And I think this can be hard sometimes because sometimes children can be really, extremely mature in some areas of development. Like they can like add numbers and know how to read or they're, maybe their gross motors, like they're, whatever it is, whatever area of development, they can be really mature in that area that sometimes we forget how immature their social emotional brain is because it's not developed. And that is, again, that reminder of how important our guidance is during that time. And I think, that's where we can kind of lose that patience of like, oh, I've told you this, or we've been over this, or this is a regression, or you've never done this before. And our patience runs low. But we have to remember the immaturity of the social emotional part of the brain at this time so we can help guide them with intention and purpose. So one thing I always like to state is that, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but when I was a newer teacher in a classroom, especially if it was not my classroom, like when I was an intern or an assistant, or, there was a lead teacher. I think, well, I shouldn't use the term my classroom. I regret saying that because it's all the teachers' classrooms and all the children's classrooms. So apologize for that term. But when there was, a lead teacher that I was learning from, I always kind of felt this pressure that if a child was having a big emotion, it was a reflection of me. So I had to fix it or I had to stop it right away. Or if I'm in public and I'm a parent or as a mom with 3 kids, if I'm in public and my child's having this outburst, it's like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. Like I have to fix it so no one judges me. And I think that's just like a really like something we just have. If you have that feeling that like you have to fix it, the second a big behavior starts, that we have to just recognize a couple things first. So again, we want to welcome these feelings fully, and this includes anger and sadness. We want to remain neutral, acknowledge and label the feeling with empathy, and place limits as needed. So as an example, a child really wants to turn with the work, but that work is being used by another child. So you explain to them, oh, I'm sorry, Henry's using this work right now. You'll have to wait. And that child is not happy about waiting. He wants that work right now. And he starts to have maybe an outburst or some negative behaviors, or he's angry or he's sad and he starts to cry, whatever it is. Okay. So you can remain neutral, acknowledge and label a feeling and say, I know it's not your turn yet. And I can see that's making you really angry. You're right. It is so hard to wait. Oh, I put in I love you because I was thinking of my children. But I can't, I care for you. I'm here for you, but I cannot let you hurt my body. That's where we're placing limits. We're not just going to let them be angry and throw materials, kick materials, hurt us, right? So we're going to state that, and then maybe state, I'm right next to you. To let them know, I'm here. I'm neutral. I'm calm. I'm going to acknowledge how you're feeling, and this is where we're at, okay? And then we want to wait it out. We don't want to distract or ignore or interrupt. Because what's happening right in that moment of that anger or that crying when you're with the child is the brain is working really hard at processing the emotion. And they're not ready to understand the impact of the emotion until they're done feeling it. So just ride it out with them. And again, acknowledge it along the way and set the limits. If they are, it is okay to be upset. It is not okay to hurt me. So I'm going to bring you over here where you can be by the pillows. Or I'm going to bring you over here where you can, and have some other proactive activity. So we're not just like, oh, sure, yeah, you can be angry and hit me or throw materials. That's fine, because I need to remain neutral and calm. Like, no, that's not it. That's where you place that limit. But you were physically with them, so they know that support is there during that time, but you're just kind of waiting it out, and letting them have that moment. And I always think about how when you're super angry about something, you don't want someone to be like, oh, well, no, it's fine. Like, let's just go out and do whatever. You would be like, well, no, like I'm mad about this. Like I need a moment with it. And maybe you're not expecting that friend to fix it for you, or you're not expecting anything crazy, but at the same time, you don't want it to be dismissed. So we have to offer the same to the child. And sometimes there is the opportunity where you can offer a hug, or sometimes just putting a hand on their back, even if they don't respond to it right away, but like, I'm here. And again, just remain present. It is so hard, by the way, because sometimes these emotions can really get to our patients, but so utterly important. I promise you, when you start to do this, there's going to be a shift. And then we want to talk about connection. So when they're in that really, that emotion, and they're just like deeply into it, and they're crying or angry or whatever, that's not really the time we're trying to connect, right? That's the time we're waiting it out and just being there, calm and neutral. But what we want to do is we do want to reconnect at some point. And we want to do that when the child's calm, because then they're in an emotional state where they can understand, and we can help them understand what happened, and either make amends or reflect on it. And the portion of the brain that processes information will not be fully available until that big emotion is gone. So sometimes, I'll see a child really having a hard time, and a teacher will be prompting them to use your words or do this. And it's like, that's just not going to happen until that's there. But that doesn't mean that, we don't want to just not, we have to talk about it. That's the whole teaching part of this, right? So that you just want to do it at a time where they are calm. Oh yeah, I remember you were really angry when, Henry had the blocks and you didn't have them. And then you got upset, and, I saw you were crying. Maybe next time we could try asking Henry first about the blocks, or look, the blocks are available now and you waited for them. And although it was hard, now you can have the blocks. Some type of reconnection, whatever the situation is, just to help them understand. Even with our young toddlers, we can be doing this. And just to be modeling, which we'll talk about in a bit. So a big part of this is just the acknowledgement. We all want to feel acknowledged when we're having big emotions, again, even when we're adults. So emotional awareness is the process of identifying emotions and how they feel within us. It's an integral part of emotional intelligence. So helping children understand what emotions are is a very important building block towards their ability to regulate their emotions later on. So again, like we said, we're laying the foundation. And, during this time of acknowledgement, we're basically just being like the emotions reporter. We're being factual and neutral. We're just describing what we're seeing. Again, if they're in this big emotion, it's not, we're not trying to dismiss it or make it stop. It's describing it. Oh, I see you're having a hard time putting your shoe on, and that's making you feel so angry. Yeah, I can hear you yelling. And then sometimes that just stop. They'll stop. You'll be amazed, and they'll think, yeah, okay, I'm heard, I'm seen, I'm acknowledged. That feels good for anybody. And then that's when you can say, can I offer some help? Or, and then you can have that moment of connection of what you would do next, to help with whatever that emotion is, being triggered by. Okay. And a really powerful part of acknowledgement is that modeling, acknowledging how you feel and set the example and how to express it. I'm really happy today because the sun's out. If the children are hearing this throughout their day, or, how you're feeling about different things, that's the model that they need. Or, oh, I'm tired today because I went to bed really late. My body needs sleep. It's really important for my body to have sleep, and I didn't have enough sleep last night, so I'm feeling pretty tired today. and going back to, previous trainings, we talk about, meal times with children. I think that's such a great time. I know during COVID it's different, but just a really, natural way that we can be having conversations about our feelings. And it doesn't always have to be happy things, with a family. You could just, within your family or your safe space, and you can say, yeah, I had a really hard day today. And children are learning that, oh yeah, that was a hard day, but tomorrow may be better, and we'll get through it. And these are things I'm going to do to help me get through it. Really, really important tools that if we're constantly modeling for children, they will have, they'll be around that, and they will be able to apply it to their own emotions when needed. So practice, practice, practice. So again, like I said, we're the emotions reporter, and we want to have fun with it. We want to use tools like books, magazines, or emotion cards, or play charades, or make faces in the mirror with your child to reinforce that emotion recognition and language. And also provide other outlets for them to express their emotions. You can do that with art or dance or music, a lot of different ways that they can be expressing themselves to feel, recognize and have that awareness. And different tools we can be using. So it can be, when a child starts to have this, either emotion or certain behavior, it can be, a little like startling, like, whoa, maybe it's a regression. You haven't seen this child do that before. So we're always going to be using our observations that we're writing down with our classroom and sharing those with our teachers. ABC data sheets are a great tool if there is a specific behavior that's happening, whether it's biting or aggression behavior, and you're really not sure where it's stemming from. What an ABC data sheet is, and you can ask your program specialist for one, or they can help you with these, is that it's kind of just 3 columns of what's happening before the behavior. That's the A, the antecedent, the behavior itself, and the consequence, what's happening after. And as you start to write, you track this data of the child, you'll start to see some common themes. Maybe it's in the consequence, like what's happening after. And so you'll switch some things up in your classroom, or maybe it's something that's happening before, but regardless, you're kind of just dissecting that behavior to get to the root of the cause of, like, what is the function? Why are they doing this? Behavior is basically their way to communicate that, like, something's not right and I need help. So we want to be there to help. And sometimes that's really hard when the children can't talk and we have to guide them. Bring all these observations and data sheets, if you're using them, to your team meetings with your program specialists, and of course, communication with parents too. Maybe sometimes they're having emotions because they're hungry in the morning and they didn't have a big breakfast, and sometimes parents aren't aware of that. So just having healthy, respectful conversations with parents is very, very helpful and important too. So that is what I have for emotional intelligence. The one thing I want to go back on is on the first slide, there was a mention of not ignoring a behavior. And I just want to highlight this because I think there's a big difference here between strictly ignoring a behavior and also giving a non-response to something. Because sometimes if they are looking for that attention and we're giving it to them, chances are they're going to repeat that behavior. So a non-response can be different. Like, I'm not going to respond to that exact behavior or that, in this moment, but you're still going to be present with them. So they're not completely ignored. So it's not like, oh, you're crying, like, see you later, like, good luck, but if you're seeing, oh, I'm kind of tying this behavior with they want attention. So I don't want to give too much attention to the behavior itself, but I'll be present. I'll be the reporter. I'll acknowledge what's happening, and then kind of write that in my, make a mental note and be really proactive on the other side of it. So if they are looking for attention, we're giving attention for the positive things that they're doing, not necessarily the negative things that they're, using maybe that attention-seeking behavior. So I know it kind of sounds confusing, the ignoring and the non-response, but there is a difference. And the biggest difference is that you stay connected, or you stay present with the child, and just not walking away or putting them in a timeout or anything like that, where they'd have to be going through that emotion, like, physically by themselves. So that sense of presence is really, really important. So I just wanted to highlight that, because as I was going through it, I was like, ooh, I want to make sure there's no confusion there. So emotions, super, super important. And even with our little infants, some of this can be applied in what was presented, but also just like the general sense of labeling everything, like if they're upset about getting a diaper change, or they're really excited to see their food or their bottle, just, saying it and narrating that for them is really, really important, even for our youngest learners. So I encourage you to reflect on how you're handling those big behaviors. Do you feel like you have to fix them and stop them? Do you feel like you're distracting them? Do you feel like you're putting limits on them? And talk with your team. Have some conversations of maybe some ways that you want to feel more secure when a child's having a big behavior, or have some more support. And to make sure that, again, you're all on the same page. So when these big behaviors or emotions arise, you know that you're supporting them with consistency and with respect and with empathy. So I hope you enjoy those conversations with your team. If you have any questions at all, like I said, this is such a huge topic. It could go on for days. Please, please, please reach out. I'm always available. Program specialist, your director. It does not, this is not, all the information you have. This is just the intro to it. So any specific questions that you have pertain to your classroom, bring them up to the team meetings, and start to just talk about it and come up with ways to support it. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great week, and I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.